A couple months ago, I read the novel I Who Have Never Known Men, written by Belgian author Jacqueline Hartman. This novel is inherently very vague. It's written in first person, and we have no idea who the narrator is because she's lost all of her memories. We have no idea where she's woken up or where she is. Nevertheless, the overlying themes of community, of finding one's identity, are very clear throughout the novel in its entirety. I personally found it very impactful. Naturally, I want my feelings validated, so I take to the most reputable literary source I can think of, TikTok, obviously. As I'm scrolling and scrolling, I see that most of the creators express reviews similar to mine. And even if they didn't necessarily like the book itself, they still saw value in its messaging and its themes and relevance in today's society. However, as I kept scrolling, I noticed a common thread between most of the negative reviews. People were frustrated with the lack of a defined conclusion. The novel was very deliberately ambiguous, and not all of the loose ends were tied with a bow, or uncertainty was cleared up within the last final pages. This reaction struck me, not just because people were disagreeing with my clearly correct opinion, but because I'd actually noticed this pattern growing exponentially, this pattern of reluctance to engage with critical thinking and reluctance to draw their own conclusions. To me, this was just one element contributing to a larger phenomenon researchers call anti-intellectualism. Anti-intellectualism is largely defined by a range of attitudes in society exhibiting disdain or contempt towards intellectual thought or academics as a whole. It can be exhibited through a devaluation of disciplines like literature, history, or even art, and the skills that are learned with it, like inquiry, analysis, or critical thinking. The anti-intellectualism that we see in today's society can largely be attributed to a wide decline in critical thinking. With this, we're concurrently seeing a raising of the culture and the saying, "It's just not that deep." Now, this phrase is used comically, but it also has an underlying meaning meant to shut down any intellectual discussion someone's trying to engage in, whether it's a piece of media or an opinion that's important to them or a very personal emotion. There is a devaluation of this piece of media, saying that it's unwarranted of deeper interpretation. And with this, there is a rejection of critical thinking where critical thinking is largely due and at times very correct. Yes, sometimes the curtains are blue because the author wanted blue curtains. Or sometimes a character is named a certain way because it just rolls off the tongue better. I know this better than anyone, having read and written way too many English analysis essays for an average person. This can be and is very much true in some cases. However, with this, there's a normalization of devaluing all media to just one perspective, and it's pushing an agenda that all critical thinking in society is unnecessary, not warranted, and not valuable. With this attitude, we see that books, renowned books like George Orwell's 1984, reduced to just a quirky sci-fi novel, or the Communist Manifesto, for example, to a self-help guide for people who just really, really hate their boss. Even so, practice makes perfect. And if we're not practicing our critical thinking skills, we're not able to teach them to children and be developed further in adults. With this, yes, television after getting home from a long, exhausting day of work is good, and you're not the enemy for watching The Simpsons, okay? But there is a culture of anti-intellectualism in our society that needs to be reduced. As we shift away from critical thinking, it's not just because society has deemed all thought to be not valuable. It's because the way we've come to define value has changed. The 21st century is one of the most culturally significant, fast-paced moments we've ever experienced, with notifications and social media feeds and endless pop-up ads. Our mind is constantly being pulled in multiple different directions. With this, our brain adjusts accordingly to prioritize efficiency and fast pace over anything else. Essential habits like reading or journaling are reduced and often associated with feelings of guilt or irresponsibility that you should be engaging with work rather than sitting and thinking and reflecting. Naturally, human beings reject these feelings of uncomfortability. So we adjust accordingly. Instead of engaging with multiple perspectives, we embrace one simpler, just because it's easier to believe, and honestly, everyone's exhausted. Similarly, when someone presents an opinion in defense to ours, or as opposed to ours, we react instinctively with defense, rather than take a moment to consider why they think that way and whether we can learn anything from it. Naturally, anti-intellectualism doesn't just have consequences beyond academics. Even though it's something we learn in the classroom, it actually extends beyond it. It's how we engage with complex social issues that don't just have one meaning or one explanation to it, like politics. Political systems inherently rely on a population that's able to evaluate diverse perspectives, weigh information, and most importantly, exhibits skepticism towards unexamined claims, whether they're from politicians or scientists or podcasters on YouTube. Politics inherently relies on these populations, and complexity is deemed as unnecessary. We're starting to see a mirrored pattern of what we see in media consumption to engaging with political discourse. And we're starting to learn to engage with simpler rhetoric rather than taking a moment to consider why society is struggling in this way and whether policies are truly established to help us as a whole. Thinking is a human being's superpower. It's unique to almost us alone. So, we need to remember to sit down and listen to others. If it's someone you disagree with, or more importantly, someone you do agree with. Faith in a singular opinion does not replace the need to listen to others. If we value a society that prioritizes truth over immediacy, then we need to be able to sit with the discomfort of listening to opinions, political or not, that are different to our own, and ultimately ask the question to ourselves, who, as a society, are we benefiting from our impatience? Thank you.